these are not the reasons why you procrastinate. These are merely your excuses. We're going to take this a layer deeper and talk about the reason why you have these excuses, which is all this superego message, this fake news message that your superego is feeding you, telling you, hey, you're only going to be lovable if you are X, Y, or Z, one of those 9 reasons based on your type. So let's deep dive into that. Because, of course, I'm going to avoid things that are going to make me feel unlovable. Of course, I'm going to avoid things that are going to make my self-worth plummet. So let's talk about this. Why does each type procrastinate? I am not a procrastinator. I just love doing everything in a deadline-induced panic. Welcome back to Create Your Fate. I'm your life coach, Meg Ellis, here to help you create your best life ever, beginning with your thoughts, your minds. You know, a tool I love to use is the Enneagram. So we are actually going to be breaking down procrastination based on your Enneagram type today. I love life coaching and I love the Enneagram, so excuse me while I just nerd out a little bit on this episode. And if you don't know what the Enneagram is, it's the most spot-on personality test that you will ever take. I swear by it. If you have not taken it, there is a link in the notes so you can take a free test, get to know your type. What it does, this is why I love this test. It's rooted in personal development, which is perfect for life coaching, but it tells you why you do things. Do you ever wonder why you do things? I know I do a lot. And today we're going to be focused on why you are a procrastinator, and that is based on your Enneagram type. And one thing that is unique about the Enneagram is it roots each type, there's 9 types, in your core fear and your core desire. So you're either running from something, why you do things, or you are running to something, the other reason of why you do things. So on today's episode, we're going to just break down procrastination, and you're actually going to see how it's tied to your self-worth, because each of the 9 types, each type, whatever type you are, you can be any type, you all have the same message, and that is you are lovable if. And if you've never thought about procrastination being a self-sabotaging behavior based on your self-worth, tune in for today's whole episode because you're going to learn what procrastination is for your Enneagram type. So once again, take that test. You're going to see how it ties to your self-worth. And then we're going to go over some time management tips. So I love time management tips. Here's the problem. Everybody's different. And so not all of those tips work for everybody. So we're going to be breaking down a tip that actually works for you based on your Enneagram type. And that is also going to be based off of what message your Enneagram type, your personality is telling you. So I'm going to do a quick overview of the Enneagram. If you want more information on the Enneagram, I have tons of podcast episodes directly on each Enneagram type. So I will make sure I attach those in the notes for you to take a look at. But let's talk about type 1. Type 1 is the perfectionist. So there's these 2 running ideas in your mind. It says, hey, your core fear and your core desire. So your core fear, if you are an Enneagram 1, which is the perfectionist, is being bad, being corrupt, making the wrong choice. And your core desire as a perfectionist, type 1, is to do the right thing. So you have this fake superego bad message that is not true in the back of your mind. And it tells you, hey, you're lovable, you're worthy, you got tons of self-worth, you are great if you're perfect. And again, these are fake messages that your brain is telling you. So let's move on to type 2. Type 2 is the helper. They have a core desire to be loved. And they have this core fear of being unwanted or unloved. And they have this fake superego message that says, hey, you're good, you're lovable if you are loved by others. Type 3, the achiever. They've got this core fear of being worthless. And they have this core desire to actually be desirable and be successful because they're this fake superego message inside of their brain says, hey, you are lovable, you're worthy if you are successful. Type 4, the individualist. They have this desire to have their own unique personal significance and this core fear that they're going to have no identity. because their ego says, hey, you're lovable if you remain true to yourself. Type 5. Their core desire is to be capable, competent, and their core fear is to be helpless and useless. They're the investigator. And they have this superego fake message that says, hey, you're lovable, you're worthy if you become the master of something. Type 6, the loyalist. They have this core desire, this inherent desire to be safe and secure and to have support, and this fear of being unable to survive. So their superego message, this fake news, is saying, hey, you're lovable, you're going to have tons of self-worth if you do what is expected of you. Type 7, which is the enthusiast, and this is also what I am. And we have this message that says, you're lovable if your needs are met, because we got this core fear of being trapped in pain and this core desire to be happy and fulfilled. So let's move on to type 8, which is the challenger. They have this fake news message that says, hey, you're lovable, you're worthy if you're in control, because they are driven by this core fear that says, oh, we don't want to be controlled by anybody else. And they have this core desire to protect themselves. And the last type, which is type 9, the peacemaker. They have this core fear of loss and separation from other people. And they have this core desire to have inner peace. So their fake ego message says, hey, you're good, you're lovable, you're worthy if others around you are happy. So that's the Enneagram overview. How is it related to procrastination? Well, let's first off, take a second and just absorb all that Enneagram info. Like I said, I'm going to nerd out on this episode, so just bear with me. Hopefully you are an Enneagram nerd too if you're watching this and you've taken the test. If not, take it. It will change your life, I promise. But let's talk about procrastination. What is it? And procrastination, by definition, is delaying a task intentionally, putting something off that you know has to be done. Okay, why do I procrastinate? And you might have some of these excuses as to why you procrastinate. Top 5 reasons why you might procrastinate. Lack of energy. I just don't have any energy. I've done enough today. Lack of motivation or discipline. Maybe you think you're lazy. Maybe you have difficulty concentrating. Or, most common one, not knowing where to begin. I have no idea where to start, so let me just not do it. And I do want to bring attention to the fact that these are not the reasons why you procrastinate. These are merely your excuses. And your excuses are just the symptom. So I'm not going to give you tons of time management tips that are going to fix your excuse, tell you how to concentrate better or how to get a plan to figure out where to begin. Because if you treat the symptom, the problem's going to come back. We're going to take this a layer deeper and talk about the reason why you have these excuses, which is all this superego message, the one that stood out to you, this fake news message that your superego is feeding you, telling you, hey, you're only going to be lovable if you are X, Y, or Z, one of those 9 reasons based on your type. So let's deep dive into that, because of course I'm going to avoid things that are going to make me feel unlovable. Of course I'm going to avoid things that are going to make my self-worth plummet. So let's talk about this. Why does each type procrastinate? So let's go back to type 1, which is the perfectionist. Right, that superego message that says, hey, you're only lovable if you're perfect. Type 1s might procrastinate due to their fear of making a mistake or not meeting their own high standards. They might delay tasks to ensure they can complete everything flawlessly. So I don't care if you don't have the energy or don't know where to start or lack motivation or discipline or whatever it is, if I feel scattered. No. If I'm fearful of making a mistake, and I think I might, because if I make a mistake, then I'm not perfect. And then therefore my superego message is going to kick in and say, hey, you're not lovable. Of course I am going to delay that task. So it's about knowing where to start. You gotta not treat the symptom, we gotta fix the root of the problem. And this is why the Enneagram is so helpful, because now we can take this and use it as a tool to figure out, hey, what can I do about making mistakes? What can I do to accept the fact that I'm going to make mistakes and be okay with it? So I encourage you to deep dive into the Enneagram and use it as a tool to understand yourself more. It's a great tool to understand yourself more. And if you are wanting other people to understand you, but you don't understand yourself, then you're never going to get anywhere with anybody understanding you. It has to start with you. So I also encourage you to listen to other types, because again, if you want to get to know other people better, if you want to understand other people better, the Enneagram is a great place to start. So time management tip for a perfectionist is break tasks into smaller, more manageable steps. Focus on progress rather than perfection, and set realistic deadlines to avoid overloading yourself with expectations. So let's go into type 2, which is that helper, which that superego message says, hey, you're only lovable if you are loved by others. So 2s may procrastinate because they prioritize helping others over their own needs, leading them to delay tasks that benefit themselves. So, time management tip for type 2s is practice self-compassion and prioritize your own tasks alongside of helping others. Not prioritizing above, even though you totally have permission to do that, but just alongside of others. Set boundaries to allocate time for self-care and personal responsibilities. Let's talk about type 3, the achiever, that says, hey, you're lovable if you are successful. So you would think, oh my gosh, of course, the type 3 would never procrastinate. Do. And they do the most. The reason why type 3 procrastinates is when the task does not align with their goals or when they fear failure or criticism. They might delay tasks that they perceive won't contribute to their success. This is where we outsource and delegate. So a time management tip for a type 3 is set clear, measurable goals and prioritize tasks based on their relevance to your objectives. Break down larger goals into smaller, actionable steps to maintain momentum. Type 4, the individualist. Their superego says, hey, you're only lovable if you're true to yourself, if you're different, if you're unique. So a type 4 might procrastinate due to perfectionism, feeling overwhelmed by emotions, or feeling that their work won't be unique or meaningful enough. So they kind of stay in the circle of, no, I have to make this more unique. It's not ready yet. So a time management tip for a 4 is create a structured routine. Routine is imperative for a type 4, and schedule to provide stability. Practice mindfulness techniques to manage intense emotions and set realistic expectations for yourself. Type 5, that investigator, they have that superego message that says, hey, you're only lovable if you're the master of something. So a 5, which typically waits for the very last minute to do things because of this, type 5s might procrastinate when they feel mentally drained or overwhelmed by too much external stimulation. They might delay tasks to gather more information or feel adequately prepared, which, ironically, they never do. So if a type waits to the last minute, I'm going to say type 5 takes the cake. So a time management tip for 5s is break tasks into smaller chunks and allocate specific time slots for focused work. Set boundaries to prevent information overload, and practice regular breaks to recharge. Also, trust yourself. You do know enough. I guarantee you, you likely know more information on the topic than anybody else. Trust yourself. Type 6 is that loyalist, and they have that superego message that says, hey, you're good if you do what is expected of you. So they might procrastinate due to anxiety and fear of making the wrong decision or facing unexpected challenges. They might delay tasks to gather more reassurance from multiple people or avoid potential risks. So a time management tip for a type 6 is create a structured plan or a to-do list to reduce uncertainty and anxiety. Break tasks into smaller steps and prioritize them based off of importance to build confidence in your abilities. Type 7. If there was a second type to take the cake on procrastination, it would be us as a overcoming procrastinator. I can speak for us 7s because our needs like to be met. We don't like to do things that we don't like to do because our superego says, hey, you're good, you're okay if your needs are met. And my need is I gotta be happy and fulfilled. So 7s might procrastinate due to fear of missing out or boredom with routine tasks. I gotta do anything else to keep me occupied. They might delay tasks that feel too restrictive or unexciting, aka the boring stuff. So a time management tip for a 7 is set clear boundaries and deadlines to stay focused. Practice mindfulness to stay present and committed on completing tasks, not starting tasks. Complete what you start, 7s, even when they're not as stimulating. Type 8, that challenger. Their superego message says, hey, you're good, you're lovable if you are in control, if you're in control. So a type 8 might procrastinate when they feel their autonomy or their control is threatened, or when tasks feel mundane or insignificant, because an 8 loves to create impact. So a time management tip for an 8 is delegate tasks when possible to avoid feeling overwhelmed or micromanaging. Set specific goals and deadlines to maintain motivation and focus on the importance of completing tasks for long-term success. And rounding out with our last type 9, that peacemaker, they have that superego message that says, hey, if other people around you are happy, then you're lovable. So a type 9 might procrastinate due to their desire to avoid conflict or discomfort because they prioritize others' needs over their own. So that can also cause them to procrastinate. So a time management tip for a 9 is practice assertiveness and communicate your needs clearly. Break tasks into manageable steps and set deadlines to maintain accountability and prevent tasks from piling up. So that is your specific time management tip, and I do encourage you to deep dive into the Enneagram. It is a great imperative tool. It has changed my life and my view of my own self-worth. So this is just one way where your self-worth comes into play, and you can see self-sabotaging behaviors like procrastination can pop up into your life. So you don't want to let this hold you back. So get to the root of it. Don't treat the symptom. We have great tips that are specific for your type, but do deep dive into your type and get to the root of the problem. So I hope this episode was helpful for you. If you liked it, I talk about Enneagram stuff all the time. Like I said, I am an Ennea nerd. And if you have any friends who are also Enneagram nerds or procrastinators, send them this. It might blow their mind too. So that's all I got for you today. But of course, if I can leave you with one thing, it is this. Expect good things always, and they will happen.